And the Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi has tweeted that the Congress party salutes the Indian Army and Jawans for the strike. He's also tweeted that everybody stands united against terrorism. So the Congress party stand reiterated by the Congress Vice President. We did hear what Ghulam Nabi Azad had to say after the all-party meet was over, and we are given to understand that it was the Congress party which was very keen that the government shared the operational details at the all-party meet, but the government saying that they will wait for a better time and at an opportune time those details will be shared. For the moment, only the briefing given was about what had happened, how these surgical strikes were conducted, and whatever necessary information that could be shared, that has been shared with all members of the political parties who were present at the all-party meet. But this was Rahul Gandhi's tweet that we have put at the bottom of our screen. The Congress party and I salute the Indian Army and our Jawans for acting valiantly to defend our country and our people. Jai Hind is what he has tweeted. Nandita Suneja joins us with more. Nandita, so the Congress party's position being reiterated by the Vice President.
That's right. The Congress party, after meeting, for a couple of hours, there have been several meetings, one that was chaired by Sonia Gandhi, after which the party line was deciding to go with the Government of India line, deciding to back, of course, the Indian Army, because politically that is the only option really for the Congress party. And Rahul Gandhi reiterating that, and a response coming, of course, a couple of hours later after his mother has already put out his statement, but Rahul Gandhi also towing the same line, saying that at this time the party stands with the Indian forces and any effort to curb terrorism will be supported.
Right. The last two words of that tweet, very, very welcome in Jai Hind, because that is the spirit that perhaps permeates across every Indian today who's proud that we have finally responded. We have crossed the line of control to negate the threat of terror to our soil.
Tonight, the News Hour debate with Arnab Goswami. India conducts surgical strikes.
Some terrorist teams had positioned themselves at launch pads along the line of control with an aim to carry out infiltration and terrorist strikes in Jammu and Kashmir and various other metros in our country. The Indian Army conducted surgical strikes last night at these launch pads.
Watch the special debate on the News Hour.
And the MEA has confirmed that Foreign Secretary Jaishankar has briefed envoys of 22 nations, which include the P5 nations and India's neighbors, on the surgical strike. India has taken other nations on board, very clearly putting out its story and its intentions behind crossing the LOC and conducting these strikes. Aditya Raj Kaul joins us with more details. So India making sure that their tactical offensive is also covered with a diplomatic cover.
Sir, I'm Dr. Police with the gathering, sir. At around 4 p.m. this meeting took place in which Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar in fact briefed envoys of 22 nations on India's almost a historic surgical strike inside Pakistan, occupied Kashmir to be specific. There are 7 of these surgical strikes that took place in which we are being told that 35 to 40 terrorists were eliminated, apart from heavy casualty on the Pakistani army side. Also, some sources even suggesting and telling Times now that there were 9 casualties on the Pakistani army side. Now, why was it important? When I asked a senior diplomat inside the Ministry of External Affairs, he said that initially, nobody was taken on board before the strike, nobody was informed, but immediately after the strike, it was very important diplomatically to take nations and India's all-weather friends on board. So apart from the P5 nations, the neighbors like Afghanistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, and also countries like Japan have been in fact, briefed in detail why it was important for India to strike back, because there were efforts made to have peace and negotiations with Pakistan. They were given evidences, they were given ample opportunity diplomatically to in fact respond. But clearly the heat was really rising up and India was in no mood to tolerate further terror attacks. 18 of our brave soldiers were martyred already and Pakistan was looking the other way. Pakistan was not even accepting that there are terror hideouts and UN-designated terrorists on their own soil and leave alone any kind of action. So yes, S. Shankar, briefing them in detail about India's attempt to in fact strike these terror outlets inside Pakistani territory.
Well, it is not Pakistani territory, and I'm going to correct you there as we move on. This is our territory that Pakistan is sitting on. We've crossed the LOC. We've not crossed the international border. So this is our territory which they have been sitting on, and we have no intentions of taking this territory like this by force. What we wanted to do was to negate the threat to our soil through these terror camps. Aditya, thanks for that input. We've got more news. The Home Minister has taken to social media to congratulate the forces and also the Prime Minister, saying, I congratulate the Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, on taking a bold decision and showing true grit and mettle in crucial times. The first one is congratulations to the Indian Army on successful counter-terrorism operations against terror groups and their launch pads. We are proud of our armed forces. They have once again exhibited exemplary courage and valor by destroying anti-India designs. And then he could say, I congratulate the Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, on taking a bold decision and showing true grit and mettle at a crucial time. We will try and get Aishwarya on this, but I'd like to go across to our guests. We have Ambassador Parthasarathy, former High Commissioner to Pakistan, with us. Saurabh Shukla stays on, thanks for that. Air Marshal Babura also stays on, and Tariq Fatah with me here in the Mumbai studio. Ambassador Parthasarathy, before I come to you, sir, I've got my correspondent live, Aishwarya, with us. Aishwarya, so the Home Minister not offering a comment after the all-party meet, but taking to Twitter to express his sentiment.
Well, absolutely, Anand. He has specifically said that we are proud of our armed forces. Once again, talking about the valor of the Indian Army, the way they have conducted this very operation. And once again, underlining the very importance of this, because if this operation would not have happened, as we have been told, it has been mentioned in that all-party meet as well, more than 24 of Fedayeen attackers would have been able to infiltrate India and then would have caused mayhem across several cities. So this, once again, the Home Minister talking about the valor and then congratulating the Indian Army for this. Anand.
Aishwarya, thanks for that update. Ambassador Parthasarathy, this is a never before. Would you also want to congratulate the political establishment for showing the political will and giving a free hand to the armed forces to go ahead and execute what they've been itching to do for a long time, sir?
Well, as a former member of the armed forces, I am proud of what those who joined the army after me have done. They've held the flag of India high. And I think what needs to be remembered about this raid is the precision with which it was executed. And the other thing which needs to be remembered is this sort of thing could not have been done without excellent intelligence inputs. So I am pleased, one, with the intelligence inputs, more importantly, by the professional and precise manner in which the raid was executed. My praise for all ranks in the military, and more important, and equally importantly, as you mentioned, this is the first time that we have deliberately in such force crossed the LOC. Yes, there have been occasional attacks across the LOC to take when you take revenge on a particular post. But not, this is what I would call a precision strike across a pretty wide front. And though we are talking of going there, operating 2 miles or so inside, they must have traveled much more to get there and get back. So I think very well executed. Congratulations. Keep up the good work, but I think bear in mind you are dealing with an enemy known to be treacherous, and I'm sure we are prepared for whatever they're willing to do.
And no lives lost, sir. No lives lost, many taken.
Absolutely.
And one Jawan who was injured because of a mine blast is also now said to be stable. So that is something which is also very special, because our forces have shown, like you said, not just precision, but they've...
Yeah, the point is excellent intelligence, because they've been precise. Excellent movement, well planned, executed. So yes, I think we can hold our heads high. But I would only say we should be prepared, as I'm sure we are, for Pakistan still continuing with some mischief. But I'll tell you what, it has lost face.
Yeah, not just that. If they continue with mischief, they accept that they have been hurt. Because right now they are denying. So are they in a catch-22? Are they actually in a diplomatic, political and tactical catch-22?
No, listen, it may interest you to know that the Foreign Secretary told Basit that we are willing to provide you even all types of evidence, including grid coordinates, the way the people came in, including references to the arms, ammunition, everything that we have on the Uri attack. But you will do nothing because you have done nothing in the case of Pathankot.
Correct.
So I think let's be real. These people are in a mood of denial, but they are but they for the first time bear in mind that the army has fought within the last 3 days on 3 borders. There has been an exchange of fire with Iran. There are problems and shootouts still on the Durand line.
Correct.
And they face this in the border with India. So let's say we are functioning at a geopolitical advantage which we haven't had before. And I'm sure this is important. Those making policy know this and will take full advantage of it.
Well, they will. And I'm just bringing our other panelists, Air Marshal Barbora. Your thoughts on the fact that Pakistan can neither confirm nor deny. We should remain alert for a reaction on our soil through whatever they have already sent across. But if there is a reaction, will that be a confirmation that we have heard them?
Sorry, couldn't make out the last words.
Will that be a confirmation from their end that we have heard them?
There is no doubt in my mind or anyone's mind who's watched the defense minister speak and what the Prime Minister of Pakistan has spoken. They are on the defensive through and through. But my greatest contention is one. The first thing I'd like to congratulate again the political parties for the bickering that is over now. Then let us not miss out on this golden opportunity. They are on a back foot. Let us take this opportunity to be able to make them suffer more in an area of our choosing. Because only then will the message go in nice and hard. And if they react, I am so happy that they will play into our game.
Very rightly said, sir, and that's why I'm saying they are stuck. They're in a catch-22 situation, and Ambassador Parthasarathy and Tariq Fatah, please, your thoughts on my next question. Should India now they've activated, or let's just, we're getting a reaction from the Information and Broadcasting Minister. I think this is the full play out of what Venkaiah Naidu said soon after the all-party meeting.
At an all-party meeting, the Home Minister the backdrop of this all-party meeting, wherein the government wanted to inform all political parties of the country the surgical operations conducted by Indian Army to foil the attempts of terrorist launching pads from Pakistan. And the details were given by Director General of Military Operations. 5 important places from Kupwara to Poonch. Our government and army has received some intelligence reports in the recent days that again attempts are being made to infiltrate terrorists and also create havoc not only in Jammu and Kashmir but also in some important towns of the country. Taking that information, the army has worked out a detailed counter-terrorist action plan and did a surgical operation successfully. This information in detail was shared with all political party leaders by the Director General of Military Operations. From the government side, the Honorable Home Minister External Affairs Minister, Finance Minister, myself, Defence Minister and other senior ministers were all present. Members of the Congress Party, NCP, CPM, BSP, Terrorism, Lok Janshakti Party, Shiv Sena, and all were there. Very happy about the Army taking this initiative, because the other side they have been testing our patience. Our this coordinated effort in all the sectors simultaneously was appreciated by one and all. और सबने आर्मी को हार्दिक बधाई दिया और सबने कहा ये पाकिस्तान को मालूम हो गया, इसको हम लोग आगे ऐसी घटनाओं को बर्दाश्त नहीं करेंगे और देश के हित में हमारा देश का सुरक्षा और हम सब लोग मिलकर एक साथ रहेंगे.
Tonight, the News Hour debate with Arnab Goswami. India conducts surgical strikes.
Some terrorist teams had positioned themselves at launch pads along the line of control with an aim to carry out infiltration and terrorist strikes in Jammu and Kashmir and various other metros in our country. The Indian Army conducted surgical strikes last night at these launch pads.
Watch the special debate on the News Hour.
Well, going back to what I was about to ask our panelists, just a quick bit of information across from Gujarat till Kashmir, all lines across the international border and the line of control, the areas up to 10 kilometers, there is a high alert and there has been evacuations in critical areas. Schools have been closed until further notice, and there is on ground, the political leadership has been advised to be there to supervise the evacuation operation, make sure that any kind of retaliation, if that happens from the other side, does not cause any loss of lives on our side. To the other question in terms of the diplomatic offensive, and I'd like Ambassador Parthasarathy to take this forward, and with Saurabh Shukla and Tariq Fatah and Air Marshal Barbora. Ambassador Parthasarathy, we have informed the P5 nations, 22 plus nations have been informed about the surgical strike soon after it happened. That is perhaps some diplomatic urgency which is being shown. But should India also capitalize on this now and prevail upon China to not re-exercise its technical hold on Masood Azhar? Because that comes to pass on the 30th. That's tomorrow.
Well, I think we've already been in touch with China. And the matter has been pursued with China quite vigorously even in recent days. That a litmus test is going to be what they do in the Masood Azhar case. My own feeling is they may try to defer a decision on that, but and weigh things carefully. But I think what is very important is that people seem to forget that the diplomatic offensive that we mounted before this by the PM in both G20 and Aspen, by Sushma ji in New York, has led to a huge support after the Uri attack for us. But not only 4 of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, that is US, UK, Russia and France, but also the entire European Union. Most importantly, key Arab countries have expressed support and solidarity for us, like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain and Qatar, for us after this. So, but the crowning humiliation for Pakistan was 4 members of SARC refusing to go to Islamabad for the SARC summit. It has never happened before. And please, I want to make this clear. This was not a sudden decision. This was in the works for at least 3 months. when we decided not to invite SAARC members to Goa, but to invite BIMSTEC members who are all our eastern neighbors.
Right.
So we saw to it that we have kept the Pakistan isolated even from a grouping of Russia and China.
Fair point there. Tariq Fatah, where do you stand on this? How can India now take this forward? Can India make a case if Pakistan goes to the international community and says they have firing on our occupied territory, their guns are blazing? Will India be able to?
They won't.
No. Okay.
Because they are facing within the US Congress a bill where two representatives in the House of Representatives have asked for Pakistan to be designated as a state sponsor of terrorism. You already have a bill in the Indian Lok Sabha, or a member who has put forward this. If I had anything to do with it, I would suggest that this, pursuing the matter of declaring Pakistan to be a state sponsor of terrorism, number one. Number two, suspension of the Indus Water Treaty, where Pakistan, for all its contempt for Hindus and Indians, wants their waters for Pakistan's Punjab free of cost. Number three, India should start recruiting Baloch and form a Baloch regiment in some form or another, facing on either the Rajasthan border or deploy them with our friends in Afghanistan. You cannot do this unless you are muscular, robust, and on the right side of history. They are isolated because it is a pain for the rest of the world. From Philippines to Philadelphia, they have been causing pain to anyone. And they have, most of the people that the Pakistanis have managed to kill are fellow Muslims. This is very important for India, and only India can play this role because it understands the menace that is Pakistan.
Trust Tariq Fatah to give a different and a very interesting spin on things, and he's given us a lot to chew. Saurabh Shukla, I know you also want to share your thoughts, but I have a compulsion. I have to take a very short break. We are approaching 6 p.m. Marshal Barbura, your thoughts too on what Tariq Fatah said, and he's really thrown a spin on things after this very short break. Please do stay with us.
Tonight, the news hour debate with Arnab goes.
And stunned by India's surgical strike that decimated several terror camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, an embarrassed Pakistan has tried to downplay the damage done. This is what Nafiz Zakaria had to say.
Yes, I am aware that there had been some, the violation of line of control, unprovoked violation by the Indian side, and we are still gathering the information about that. So once we have that, we'll definitely share with you. But I recall before, I have seen before coming here to this podium, I have seen on TV as well the two things which I noted. One was DG ISPR has given a statement on this, and in which he has said that, as usual, there had been a violation of line of control by India. And if I remember correctly, he mentioned about shahadat of 2 people actually on our side. Secondly, I have seen also the Prime Minister condemning the unprovoked breach of the agreement which exists between the two countries not to violate line of control. So once we have all the details, we'll share with you.
So that was what Nafiz Zakaria has to say. Now, they're caught in a bind. That's what we've been discussing. They've caught in a bind. And as we took the break, we had Tariq Fatah throwing an interesting spin on what should be our diplomatic offensive and what are the areas and avenues where we can take Pakistan on and take this forward. Saurabh Shukla, your thoughts?
Well, I think in any case, we have a diplomatic high ground when it comes to Pakistan, given the fact that we have successfully isolated Pakistan in the last few days. From the Prime Minister's outreach to leaders at G20, to Sushma Swaraj's speech, to the behind the curtain diplomacy that has been going on, which you saw today as well, where the Foreign Secretary has briefed some envoys. I can tell you that Pakistan stands isolated, and nobody is going to question India's legitimate right of striking across these terror camps which pose danger to people of India. So I think this should be just a beginning, as one of your one of my co-panelists was also saying, that this should not be the end. While India has tactfully said that this operation comes to an end, but if Pakistan continues to perpetrate terrorism, continues to harbor these terror groups, India will go even further. This is the starting point, and this is a strategic shift in India's policy, where it will take diplomacy, it will take offensive action. Whatever works with Pakistan will be taken on and done. And the Prime Minister, I reiterate again, has shown strategic spine in handling Pakistan, and I think diplomacy has got a good cover when it comes to, because diplomacy can only have a layering approach. It cannot act as a primary approach vis-a-vis Pakistan. And I'm glad that this is what has been tried, an offensive approach vis-a-vis Pakistan. This has worked very well. In the days to come, India will mount this diplomatic offensive even further. They will sensitize some other diplomatic interlocutors as well. And clearly, Pakistan's stand isolated.
Should that be? I'm going to try and see if Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi of the BJP is through with us. He isn't. He will be through with us in about a minute. But Ambassador Parthasarathy, quickly, Tariq Fatah's recommendations are ringing with me. He says first, push for Pakistan to be declared a state sponsor of terrorism. That online petition has got more than 1,500,000 petitions already, and it's moved up on the list. And then he says, let's recruit and form a Baloch regiment and position them on the borders with Pakistan in Rajasthan or somewhere. And then he says the Indus Waters Treaty. Why should we give them the waters?
Let me say something, that we are missing the most important point. By this raid, we have called Pakistan's bluff.
Yes.
Its defense minister had threatened us with use of nuclear weapons.
Yesterday.
Day before yesterday, I think it was. Yes. And we have done it the next morning. And where is that defense minister? Is nowhere to be seen. In any case, in Pakistan, the army chief does not call on the defense minister. The defense minister calls on the army chief. And the defense minister does not attend meetings convened by the prime minister where the army chief is present. I mean, the defense minister is ideal in Pakistan if the man concerned chooses to spend the rest of his life in Parda. So I think that is my answer to Pakistan's defense minister. Listen, we know your nuclear thresholds. They have been defined by sensible generals like Khalid Kidwai. And we also know that your army enjoys the good things in life. It's adventurous but not suicidal. So this nuclear bluster carries little weight with us. And I'm saying this also for audiences in India. For God's sake, these fellows live too well. They're not out to commit collective suicide.
Yes.
And second, the only
that's why
who headed their nuclear command authority has specified what their thresholds are.
Yeah, and that's why perhaps the maximum nervousness was when
command authority says.
So, an ambassador, and that's why perhaps the maximum nervousness was when India said that we will review the MFN status. Because a lot of them would have...
MFN status is the least. I would go back to what Mr. Tariq Fateh says. I think we have now enough resources in the United States to to let us see how we can move that congressional resolution. Absolutely. Because nothing is going to move unless the Americans move.
Right.
I think you've got a 3 million strong Indian community who have been liberally financing elections in America, closely affiliated to both political parties.
Yes.
Let's start with that.
And with whom the current establishment, at least the Prime Minister, has very strong equity and perhaps traction. So let's ask the political advisor to the Union Home Minister and National Spokesperson, Sudhanshu Trivedi, who's joining us at this point. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, let's move forward. Congratulations on doing what no other political establishment here over the last 70 years has done as a government. You've shown the political will, and the armed forces, congratulations to them for the precision that they have shown. No lives lost, maximum taken on the other side, and that is what, and heavy casualties inflicted. That is the success of our intelligence and our armed forces' ability. But let's take it forward, sir. How are you going to push the diplomatic offensive? The first suggestion, Tariq Fatah, Ambassador Parthasarathy, some of our panelists are saying is push US to adopt this bill and declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terrorism. And let's lean on that 3 million strong Indian American population.
Up till now, if you look at the entire strategy of the Modi government after we came into power around more than 2 years, we have made a paradigm shift, both on the diplomatic aspect, on the strategic aspect. On the diplomatic aspect, if you see that we have not only managed to successfully isolate Pakistan, but also for the first time we have raised the issue of Baluchistan. So we have put the Pakistan on the defensive for the first time, which no previous government has done, or no previous government has taken initiative. You have just seen a couple of days back when our Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj has taken up that issue on UN platform. The present situation is, if you leave China up to a certain extent, no country is ready to take the side of Pakistan. Just yesterday, the SAARC summit has been cancelled. So all the countries in the region are by and large with India, then with Pakistan. So diplomatically, we have successfully, dexterously managed to isolate Pakistan both on the regional as well as on the international arena. Now today's strike shows that on the issue of strategic aspect or on the issue of military aspect, this is a very significant day, because after 1971, for the first time we have crossed LOC and performed something. It means the doctrine of LOC, which was there in vogue since last 45 years, has been given a new definition by our government. So it is proven that gone are those days in which it was said that India is a soft state or too much soft state. Now India is firm, and as far as Pakistan is concerned, it was a very peculiar conflict in the entire world. There are so many conflicts in various nations, but it is the only conflict in which the powerful and bigger nation was suffering and the weak and smaller nation was doing. It is the only conflict in which not the weaker nation or the smaller nation has gone to UN. It was a bigger nation has gone to UN. तो साहब यही एक मुसीबत थी कि हम बड़े और ताकतवर थे, फिर भी सताए हम ही जा रहे थे. It means there was a very significant lack on the diplomatic aspect which the Modi government has done.
तो अब सुधांशु जी बात यह है कि जब आप कह रहे थे कि हम पहल करेंगे और समय और वक्त, समय और जगह हम चुनेंगे, लेकिन करारा जवाब जरूर दिया जाएगा. अब एक एस्पेक्ट हो गया इन टर्म्स ऑफ द सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक्स, जो आपने टैक्टिकल ऑफेंसिव कहा कि हम टेरर बेसिस को नेस्तो नाबूद कर देंगे, हमने कर दिए. और दूसरी एस्पेक्ट आपका है कि यू आर क्लेमिंग दैट देयर इज अ डिप्लोमेटिक ऑफेंसिव. यू आर सेइंग दैट यू बीन एबल टू आइसोलेट पाकिस्तान, बट दे आर सेइंग वेयर इज इट इन कॉन्क्रीट. यू शोन द इंटेंट बाय कॉलिंग ऑफ द सार्क ट्रिप टू इस्लामाबाद एंड अदर नेशंस बैकिंग यू. But now they are saying the offensive will really come into play if, one, you are able to prevail on the US to pass this bill and get them to declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terrorism, and two, you are able to prevail upon China to refrain from exercising their technical hold, which comes to expire tomorrow, on Masood Azhar.
If you look at the recent development on the diplomatic aspect, Russia has withdrawn their military exercise in the disputed area. US, which was considered one of the most trusted allies of Pakistan, it is consistently rebuking and snubbing Pakistan since last around a year or so. China, which was considered a very significant ally, the most trusted ally, now the China is also not taking the side of Pakistan in a way which the Pakistan was expecting. On the other hand, I would like to remind you that there was a Hangzhou conference of G20 in China recently concluded, in which there are media reports that there was an unwritten instruction from the Ministry of External Affairs of China to all the hotels of Hangzhou that the countries of citizens of 5 countries, that is Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria and Turkey, should not be allowed to stay in any of the hotels 1 week prior to the conference. So this was the confidence of China towards Pakistan as far as the terrorism is concerned. So in a way, we are quite confident that successfully and gradually we are moving inching towards the situation in which we will be able to totally isolate, and we will further move ahead to brand Pakistan as a terrorist state.
In terms of Baluchistan, will Bramdag Bukti be granted asylum? What is the consideration, since you are political advisor?
On all these aspects, considering all the technical, diplomatic, political and geo-strategic considerations, the government will take an appropriate action.
Right. Sudhanshu Trivedi, please stay with us. I'm just going to go across to some of our other panelists. Colonel Anil Kaul with us, Saurabh Shukla, Tariq Fatah. Tariq Fatah, you've been hearing Sudhanshu Trivedi. How would you want to respond to it?
I think I can't differ with anything he said, except, sir, वो बरामदाग मुफ्ती को आ जाने दें. उसमें इतना बड़ा मुल्क है आपका, इतने बड़े बड़े सिंगर्स को आपने सिटीजनशिप दे दी, वो हमारे बलूचिस्तान के लीडर हैं, उसको यहाँ आने दें. Oh, I can assure you, Pakistan will have heartburn for the rest of their lives. कभी तो इंजॉय करने का भी वक्त होता है ना, थप्पड़ मार के दूसरे का दर्द भी देखने का शौक है हमें. तो वो हमारे भाइयों को मार रहे हैं वहां बलूचिस्तान में, आप उनको मेहमान बुला के यहाँ बुला दीजिए. I'm telling you, that would be a diplomatic coup and an insult and a slap on the face of these overdressed generals of the Pakistan Army.
In fact, Sudhanshu Trivedi, before you joined us, I asked you this question on purpose, because Tariq Fatah, one of his recommendations in terms of an out-and-out offensive against Pakistan is that the Indian Army should also have a Baloch regiment. You should recruit, you should have a Baloch regiment, and you should position them at Rajasthan and Gujarat across the borders. And that's what Tariq Fatah's suggestion is. I want to hear your thoughts before I go across to Maruf Raza, who joins us, and Colonel Anil Kaul.
Neither I am privy to such information, nor I am entitled to comment on that.
It's a suggestion that he's making.
It is a purely strategic aspect on which only a military person or the person in senior position in the government can say. But one thing I would like to say, as Tariq Fatah ji has said, that Bramdag Bukti should be allowed to have asylum in India. India is having a great tradition to provide shelter for whosoever is facing persecution, from Dalai Lama to Zahir Shah of Afghanistan to the Bangladeshis and others, which I would like to say in one line of Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee's poem, कि जग के ठुकराए लोगों को तो मेरे घर का खुला द्वार, मैं अपना सब कुछ लुटा चुका फिर भी अक्षय है धनागा. So India is having a lot to offer to all over the world and also to our region.
Well, from the poetic note to the strategic one, we'll strike that after a very short break. Maruf Raza and Colonel Kaul coming to you after this very, very short break.
Tonight, the
Now, here are the details of the surgical strike on which terror launch pads were destroyed. This was across three main sectors, that is Bhimber, Lipa and the Kale sector on the Pakistan side along the line of control. And it was across these three sectors that 7 launch pads were destroyed in very pointed surgical strikes. Now, these surgical strikes were coordinated at the highest level. You had the NSA Ajit Doval working with the Army Chief General Dalbir Suhag. The Defence Ministry was aware. The PMO was aware. You had the Army Chief, all of them monitoring the operations from the Army headquarters. And what happened was there were special commandos, para-commandos who were used for this operation. They were para-dropped, but our aircraft never crossed the LOC. Then the Indian Army forces were dropped along the line of the LOC. They entered on the other side. The operations were conducted as launch pads were located about 0.5 to 2.5 kilometers on the other side of the LOC. As these launch pads were all used, RPG was used to systematically, clinically destroy these launch pads. It was a 4-hour long operation that began at about 12:30 a.m. That's half past midnight, and went on till about 4:30 a.m. And as the troops finished their operations and returned, there was some retaliatory firing which was also seen. But the objective was very clear. It was a terror basis, and anybody who tried to back these terrorists or help them were neutralized. Whether they were army personnel or not, the forces didn't see that. What they saw was somebody backing these terrorists, and they were neutralized. So retaliatory firing, like I said, began at about 4 a.m. And that's how, in a matter of 4 hours, more than 2 to 3 dozen terrorists were neutralized by our forces. Going back to our guest, thank you for your patience. Maruf Raza, our consulting editor and strategic affairs expert, joins us live in the Delhi studios. But first, going across to Colonel Anil Kaul. Colonel, appreciate your patience, sir. Your thoughts, how should India take this forward? It's a surgical strike which has never been done before. It's been done with pinpoint precision. A message has been sent across to Pakistan. But how should India take this forward?
Anand, let me correct you. This is not the first time that such a strike has taken place. Maybe we never use helicopters, but on-ground movement across the LOC, there have been instances when such activity and some sort of attacks did take place, but they were never talked about, they were never projected, they were never intimated to anybody. Also, that prior to 1972 agreements, the LC had a very clear-cut rule of law, and that was finders keepers. You could just walk in and see if the post is not occupied, or you could...
I think we've just momentarily lost the feed with Colonel Kaul. Maruf, can you want to take this forward? Because this is the first time the government has officially claimed and accepted a surgical strike and also given details of these operations in a long time. There could have been tactical offensives or moves taken on ground, which, army personnel would have been privy to. But for the civilian population and people at large, this is the first open declaration of terror camps being neutralized. And this was something which the larger sentiment of the, people wanted.
Yeah, Anand, there are several firsts to this. One is the formal admission by the government of India that these operations had been carried out, and following which there was a DGMO's briefing, then there was briefing of political leaders, there was a briefing of the foreign press by the foreign secretary. There's also been an interactive engagement of the army chief with retired service officers, many of them who appear in the media. So there is a systematic giving out of information on a need-to-know basis, basically A, to authenticate, and B, to ensure that there is no unnecessary speculation about the scale of the operation. But having said that, to me, the scale of the operation is pretty large. Yes, there have been previous cross-border, cross-LOC activity, but not of this scale, and quite clearly not systematically having targeted several launch pads with groups of terrorists who could have been in the range of anything from 10 to 25 in each launch pad. Now, the total number of casualties may never be known, but it was substantial. Let's stay with that. The third point to understand, and Colonel Kaul made this very interesting point earlier in the afternoon, and I've always maintained that. See, Pakistan's in a catch-22 situation. As they are now continuing to say that this is all Indian propaganda, if it is, then they have to live with propaganda just as we lived with Pakistani propaganda all these years.
Right.
But if they take action, that means obviously they've been caught with their pants down. So either way, they are in a difficult situation. And you may remember that even after the attack by the Americans to take out bin Laden, Pakistan was initially denying it, and then all sorts of convoluted explanations were given that the operations were even carried out in agreement and connivance with the Pakistani forces, but only to their embarrassment, the first time after the 71 wars humiliation, that the Pakistani military brass had been summoned or had to go and give an explanation to the nation through addressing the National Assembly and the Senate and the Parliament. So quite clearly this time it may be again an embarrassing situation for them. The point is what General Malik made earlier, that we have to keep our guard up. I think the first 36 to 48 hours are going to be crucial in how they respond. And I'm pretty certain that the guard is up. I've been told by very authoritative sources we are ready for anything. And that means, going back to what General Ranbir said earlier, that we will hit at a place and time of our choosing. As you rightly brought out on the map, these hits were in 3 different sectors, and all the sectors were formation sectors. So therefore, either they were brigade or division locations, and these operations would have been coordinated by Northern Command, because Special Forces operate under Command Headquarters. Now give you an idea, the Northern Command has a total troop level of 330,000. So it is about 5 times bigger than the British Army. So please understand that this is a very large military area, and the operations would have been done and carried out at the highest level with full consent of the political leadership. In the past, we did not get the political consent which the forces were ready. I have interacted with a lot of special forces officers exactly in some of the areas where the ops took place, and believe me, I was very impressed with the level of skills and preparations they have. They had it all on the back of their hand. They were just waiting for the word go. Not now, for the last 3 years at least or more, but frustration was high. So I think we are capable of a lot more. Pakistan would be wise not to push the card with India. Back to you, Anand.
Well, thanks for that update, Maruf, and I'm standing by for Shravan Sen to join us because we have some more details that have come through to us, but we'll wait till Shravan is passed through or he joins us live to share those details with us here on air. But going across to Sudhanshu Trivedi, the level of preparedness, because that is a query that happened even at the all-party meet. How are we prepared for a retaliation if it happens? Because Pakistan right now is trying to gauge its response. How should it respond? Because they are in a catch-22 situation, Sudhanshuji. But what are the countermeasures, and is India ready?
One thing which Maruf Raza has mentioned is a very significant thing. As he has said, that Pakistan up till now is saying that this is nothing but a propaganda. So if they remain mum, and they try to justify their allegation of propaganda, it means they have to live with it and the things will continue. And if they retaliate, it means you have accepted that something of this sort was done and it was not a propaganda. So now Pakistan has to decide. As far as the India is concerned, our armed forces are fully prepared and are capable enough to give any counter-offensive if anything untoward happens. As far as the political leadership is concerned, as Maruf has also mentioned, that political leadership now is having a firm resolve. Previously, our armed forces were having the same capabilities. They have done exceptionally well in various 3 and 4 conflicts with Pakistan, but unfortunately, they have won on the battlefield, but we have lost on the diplomatic table. जिसे हम कह सकते हैं कि हम सुलह की शक्ल को संवारते रहे और जीतने के बाद बाजी हारते रहे. तो फौज तो जीतती रही और हम कूटनीति की बिसात के ऊपर हारते रहे. But this time, our leadership is having a firm resolve that we will decisively defeat them both on the diplomatic front as well as on the strategic front. Both on their internal front as well as on the external fronts. जैसे आप देखा कि यूनाइटेड नेशन से लेके बलूचिस्तान के अंदर तक और आर्मी के इस एक्शन से लेके इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे आज स्थिति यह है कि यूनाइटेड अरब अमीरात और सऊदी अरब जैसे देश भी उनके साथ खड़े होने को तैयार नहीं. Even in the SAARC, the 2 big Muslim countries of the region, Afghanistan and Bangladesh, are openly on the side of India and criticizing Pakistan.
Because they've also had enough.
Opinion, our way ahead is very clear.
Sudhanshuji, sorry to interrupt you. I have to go across to Shravan, but before that, quick intervention from Maruf. Maruf wanted to respond. जब आप थोड़े poetic हो गए तो वो भी Maruf wanted to respond at that front. Maruf, quick response, please. Then I'll go across to Shravan.
You know, Sudhanshu ji raised a very important point, you know, that very often what the gains of the battlefield are lost on the negotiating table. I think what we need to also understand is 2 or 3 quick points. One is that let's not get into too much of chest thumping. Let's take it in stride as a potential big power, that we have the capacity, we've shown our will and determination to do it. And we must get on with the business of protecting our nation, our security and our citizens. The second point to understand is that there is the possibility of some escalation, but not to the extent that the peaceniks are building up a situation. And I don't see it getting unmanageable because our diplomatic initiative is working very hard at keeping it to manageable levels. And the US is only going to support us if we show the resolve to fight our own battles, which we have shown now. And the US has virtually no troops in Afghanistan, so the US dependence on Pakistan is down to negligible now.
Well, thanks for that, Maruf. I'll just come back to our panelists, quickly going across to Shravan, who's joining us live with details of the operation, what's been shared through sources. Shravan has got them. Shravan, over to you. Share it with our viewers, please, in detail. What were these ops? How long had they been in the planning stage? And how did it come into fruition?
Well, Anand, what we are picking up from our top sources as far as this particular operation is concerned, the move basically came in on Wednesday. We are being given to understand is that 3 separate teams had basically crossed over. Remember, what we are being told is that there was heavy gun firing and mortar firing also as far as in a location in Uri that was specifically done to basically confuse the Pakistani troops. Now, that actually gave some amount of advantage to India, to the Indian Army, so that the special ops forces, they could basically cross over to the line of control. What we are given to understand is that the operation began around 12:30 midnight and this continued for almost 4 hours, and thereafter there was also retaliation which took place. Remember, as these two the military move which basically took place, they were basically separated in 2. The first basically also carrying out some sort of firing that was over in a location which is not too far away in Uri, where this particular attack actually on the Uri 12th Infantry Battalion where the attack actually took place, and the other we are given to understand is when the troops basically moved in. All this was basically being monitored by the Northern Command. We are also being told that UAVs, our soldiers were basically equipped with the UAVs so that there could be a footage that could be given to the Northern Command, and also they were being closely monitored. As far as the message that was basically given to our troops was that just to go and shoot and kill, and to ensure that none of the injured soldiers are left behind. Now, that was the only instruction that was being given. Remember, all this while there were only a handful of people who really had an idea as far as this particular operation is concerned. We are being told that this was very closely coordinated by the NSA as well as the Army Chief.
Well, Shravan, thanks for that. Now, what's significant is that this operation was conducted across in 2 segments over an arc of about 250 kilometers and with pinpoint precision. And Ambassador Parthasarathy, you were praising this. You're saying as a former military man, and it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of precise intel for you to be able to effect a strike like this. So, and that also perhaps is a point across to our neighbor, that we have the military might to take you out even before you realize. If we can do this to about 7 launch pads, we can do it to a lot of other establishments.
I think, many things are left unsaid. The action is the message. So I think we would not do ourselves any good by internationally having to say this when the action speaks for itself. Because in an ultimate analysis, they would have to be given some space to not be seen to be totally humiliated. But though everyone knows that they have been caught by surprise.
Well, they've been caught by surprise. Now, what should be the next diplomatic offensive? How should we back
I think the next diplomatic offensive, as we should continue. Isolate them within the region. Work with Afghanistan and Iran, with whom they are having problems. Let them concentrate on their western borders. As for the talk about the Baluch, there is no need to raise a regiment here. Several regiments are being raised by them in Afghanistan. They've driven their young militants into Afghanistan, and that is happening. So, we are playing it at several levels. At a level of support for cause of minorities who are being persecuted, be it Baloch or Pashtuns. 800,000 Pashtuns have been driven out of their homes by the Pakistan Army. This we have to play on and expose before the world.
That is something which the Prime Minister mentioned for the very first time in Kozhikode. He talked about Pakistan in Kozhikode.
I have gone a step further. Join the Afghans and de-recognize the Durand line. Call it a disputed border. After all, none of the tribals in the border accepts it as a border. Why should we? Does Pakistan accept all our borders with China? I think pressures can be mounted.
Fair, and our panelists are raising very
on our border.
From Tariq Fatah to Ambassador Parthasarathy to Maruf Raza and Saurabh Shukla, everybody is raising a lot of points, and they're trying to stir up the pot, Sudhanshu Trivedi. That's what they're doing, and I'm going to go across to the other 2 gentlemen. Please, before I come to you, sir, Maruf wanted to make a point, and so did Saurabh Shukla. Quickly, gentlemen, and then we'll go to Sudhanshu Trivedi. Maruf.
Anand, it must be understood that it's not easy to raise an army regiment. Even the Pakistan army has had a Baluch regiment for ages, but they hardly have, if any, Baluchis in that. But that is a decision they have consciously taken, not to give Baluchis arms in their hands, because they don't trust them. And that is a sore point with the Baluchis also. To raise a regiment is a very detailed, complicated exercise. What we can certainly do to take further Mr. Parthasarathy's idea is that sponsor a regiment or likes of Baluchis within Baluchistan who will push our card, because now that the Prime Minister has, and I've been told through very authoritative sources, that the decision to name Baluchistan and POK from the ramparts of Red Fort were taken after a lot of deliberation, and a conscious decision was taken. So it was not a remark off the cuff. It was a few minutes in a very long speech, but which really caught the world's attention. Now we need to take that forward diplomatically, and the first step is, SARC isolation has begun. The second step is corner Pakistan from its western front, which is always Pakistan's worry, that is Afghanistan and Iran. And the third thing is get all the countries that have serious engagement with India to make a choice whether they are with us or with them.
Right. So, sort of quickly, I have. All right, I have to. Sort of, I'm sorry, I have to take a break.
Just adding to what Maruf said.
Yeah, quickly, 30 seconds.
Economic measures in place. Tell countries, if you want to have business with India, good ties with India, make sure you're not having key relationships with Pakistan. Really bleed them, put them on the brink, push them to a corner. We were using a lot of diplomatics with Pakistan. Shed that, treat them in a manner what they deserve. Isolate them to the hill. We are already doing it. We have to go full throttle when it comes to Pakistan.
When Sushma Swaraj, standing at the UNGA, said कि हम आपको अलग थलग कर देंगे, it was a very deliberate choice of words, because अलग थलग has multiple connotations. What are those connotations? We'll ask the expert in Hindi in our midst, who's also a poet and also a spokesperson and also political advisor, Sudhanshu Trivedi, on the other side of this very short break. I have to take this break, gentlemen. Please stay with me.
Tonight, the News Hour debate with Arnab Goswami. India conducts surgical strikes.
Some terrorist teams had positioned themselves at launch pads along the line of control with an aim to carry out infiltration and terrorist strikes in Jammu and Kashmir and various other metros in our country. The Indian Army conducted surgical strikes last night at these launch pads.
Watch the special debate on the News Hour.
आज जो भारत की सेना ने कार्रवाई की है, सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक, उस पर हम भारत की सेना का बहुत ही अभिनंदन करते हैं, उनकी बहादुरी का, कि बिना किसी पर कोई भी चोट लिए हुए भारत की सेना कुछ घंटों में इतनी बड़ी कार्रवाई करके आ गई। हमें भारत के प्रधानमंत्री बहुत मान है, जिस तरह से उन्होंने देश का नेतृत्व किया है वो दुनिया के सामने स्पष्ट है। भारत एक परिपक्व कंट्री है, लेकिन एक बात स्पष्ट है, अगर आतंकवाद को कोई भी आगे बढ़ाएगा, भारत के खिलाफ कार्रवाई करेगा, तो भारत अपनी सामरिक सुरक्षा की चिंता करेगा। और आज हमने करके दिखाया। पाकिस्तान को हमने डिप्लोमेटिकली आइसोलेट किया है, देखा है आपने। सार्क में कोई कंट्री नहीं जा रहा है। दुनिया में पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ लोग सवाल कर रहे हैं, आतंकवाद कब तक चलेगा। दुनिया में जहां जहां आतंकवाद हुआ है, लंदन में हुआ, ब्रसल्स में हुआ, पेरिस में हुआ, न्यूयॉर्क में हुआ, दिल्ली में हुआ, उरी में हुआ, हर में कहीं ना कहीं पाकिस्तान के किसी व्यक्ति का, संगठन का इन्वॉल्वमेंट है। तो अगर भारत के खिलाफ पाकिस्तान नहीं सुधरेगा तो जवाब जरूर मिलेगा, और वो जवाब आज मिला है।
सर, जिस तरह से सर उड़ी अटैक के बाद इंडियन सिटीजन की तरफ से एक बेफिटिंग रिप्लाई पाकिस्तान की तरफ मांगा जा रहा था, वो आज देखा गया।
अब हम बेफिटिंग रिप्लाई के रूप में नहीं कहेंगे। नरेंद्र मोदी की अगुवाई में हमारी सरकार देश के सामरिक हितों की पूरी चिंता करेगी। एक भी हिंदुस्तानी, चाहे वो सेना का हो या आम आदमी हो, अगर आतंकवादी उसका खून बहाएंगे तो आतंकवादियों को उसका जवाब मिलेगा, ये स्पष्ट होना चाहिए।
सर, प्रधानमंत्री जी के द्वारा पहले इंडस वैली ट्रीटी मामले को लेकर, अब मोस्ट फेवर्ड नेशन मामले को लेकर जो है,
अब ये सब स्ट्रैटेजिक बातें हैं, सरकार तय करेगी। आज का दिन भारत की सेना के साथ खड़े होने का है, आज का दिन भारत की सेना का मान अभिमान बढ़ाने का है, और आज का दिन प्रधानमंत्री जी ने जो देश की अगुवाई की है उसके प्रति अभिमान का है। और इसमें मुझे सबसे गर्व की बात यह है कि पूरा देश एक स्वर में बोल रहा है और पूरा देश एक साथ खड़ा है। इसलिए आज भारत का मान बढ़ा है और भारत की सेना का मान बढ़ा है।
Sudhanshu Trivedi, limited time, so straight to you, sir. It is important that we celebrate and we congratulate our forces for the wonderful work that they have done, but it's also important that we don't get carried away. We can't savor it too long,
yes,
and we can't sit on it too long.
Yes, I agree that this is not just an issue of chest thumping. We should be very serious and meticulous in our approach. As some of our experts have pointed out, the issue of the Western Front, after the withdrawal of the NATO forces in 2014, the pressure from the Western Front has somehow got released. So it is now required that the Pakistan should also have some pressure from the Western Front, from Afghanistan or Iran. And we also should try to portray that if Pakistan wants to connect this issue with the Kashmir, whether it is the Uri incident, Pathankot or 2611, then we should try to project. If they were involved in Dhaka, Kabul, is it because of the Kashmir? If they are involved in Bangkok and Sydney attack, is it because of the Kashmir? Or if Osama bin Laden was there, it is because of the Kashmir. So we should make it very clear in front of the entire world that the issue is not the Kashmir. The issue is terrorism, and Pakistan has become the terror capital of the world. As India is emerging as the intellectual capital of the world, the Pakistan is emerging as the terror capital of the world. And on that issue, you have said कि वो सुषमा स्वराज जी ने कहा ना अलग थलग कर देंगे, तो हम उनको अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर तो है ही। जब से मोदी जी ने बलूचिस्तान का मुद्दा उठाया है, पाकिस्तान का जो बेसिक प्रीमाइस था उस पर क्वेश्चन लग रहा है। आज पाकिस्तान अपनी आइडेंटिटीज को साथ नहीं रख पा रहा है, बंगाली आइडेंटिटी साथ नहीं रख पाया, बलूच आइडेंटिटी साथ नहीं रख पा रहा, सिंधी आइडेंटिटी साथ नहीं रख पा रहा है, पख्तून आइडेंटिटी साथ नहीं रख पा रहा है, कश्मीर आइडेंटिटी साथ रख नहीं पा रहा है, मुहाजिर आइडेंटिटी साथ नहीं रख पा रहा है, और उसके बाद भी वो दहशतगर्दी के नशे में है। तो हमारा ये कहना है कि अंदर से बाहर तक हम उसको कोशिश करेंगे कि इस हद तक अलग थलग करें, और पाकिस्तान को यह समझना होगा, इसे एक लाइन में कहूंगा, पाकिस्तान का जो हालात है, तुमने जिस बारूद के ढेर पे अपने को बैठा लिया है कि कागज का है लिबास, चिरागों का शहर है, चलना संभल संभल के क्योंकि तुम नशे में हो।
Sudhanshu Trivedi, on that note, I have to wind up, making way for the very special broadcast coming up next. Arnab joins us live as India strikes back. Thank you so much to all our panelists for joining us on this very special broadcast.